Okay, well, Josh, Leah, welcome to Dallas. I hope you've enjoyed it, even though it's been short, I'm sure.
Yeah, we had a good reception yesterday.
Yeah,
Good.
Great reception.
Nice. I'm glad. I really enjoyed the screening. It was nice to see such high quality television on a big screen. It'll be hard to go back to a smaller screen in my home.
I know, it was funny because we walked in right at the end and just seeing it up there, it's like, wow, it's a different feel, obviously, than watching it. I saw the screener on my laptop, so.
Yeah.
Nice to see on the big screen.
Well, thank you. I'm really glad you liked it.
I did. So when y'all read the script, what kind of drew you to the show? And I'll just ask each of you.
Well, like I said last night, I mean, shows like this don't come around a lot at all. And, I mean, certainly what drew me to the script was the character. And the same goes again. Characters like that just don't get written, and don't get written to the standard that Matthew Parkhill, the show's creator, has done. And I think, as an actor, whenever you're looking at any script, that's the first thing you go towards. And then it wasn't just that; it was the first 2 episodes that the rough drafts that I got sent. I just finished them, and I was like, right, I've got to see more. And it was as simple as that, really.
Yeah, I received the breakdown from my agent like any other audition, and I heard that Tandy Newton was attached to it, and that really excited me because she's wonderful and has this great career behind her, and so I was intrigued about why she was choosing TV, and it was very clear to me after reading the pilot because it's just so well put together. And I mean, it had no buzz whatsoever at that point. Like, my agents didn't even know anything about it other than Tandy being involved, but it's just such a good read. It moves so quickly, and it reveals at the end of the first script that I read, which was half of the screener that you saw last night, the first half, there's this big reveal that it's like, oh my God, where are they going to go from here?
Right.
Usually like a whole entire series would end up to something like that at the end. So it's like they get that out of the way with at the end of the first script. It's like, oh my God, where are they going to go from here? And script to script, it's really like that throughout the whole show. So, so yeah, I mean, it was the writing to be with it with Matthew is a joy.
Great. Well, Leah, your character seems to want to pull some strings from behind the scenes, and
yes,
it's very interesting. Do you think for your character it's driven more from self-interest, or is it actually being supportive of your husband in
I think
your
it's
own way?
both. That's an interesting question. I think it's definitely both. I mean, man, when I sat with Kathy and started making decisions and discoveries with her before we even began, I just felt she's defined by her relationship with her husband, really, and she's kind of married herself into this very unique family setting that she didn't grow up in. So what are the choices that she's made along the way to find herself in this situation? I find that very interesting. I find it very interesting when you consider, what does one do what is one willing to kind of turn a blind eye against to protect what's theirs and what they believe in, and that's kind of a theme that played with me with Kathy. She really came off the page to me when I met Josh, and when we started working everything together, it was like, okay, I get it. I get the dynamic. I get what this represents. And I think that Kathy is, she's just very, very, very strong female. She's a grizzly bear. She's a queen. She's a frightened little girl at times. And she's doing her best to let her husband do the brunt work, but she, being a female, has the greater perspective in mind always, so that dynamic definitely played out.
Yeah. Well, and Josh, your character definitely, seems conflicted between wanting to either, stand behind his father or kind of try to maybe possibly fill his shoes instead. How has that kind of working those angles been for you?
Well, I think any son wants to sort of both emulate and please his father as much as he does wants to outdo him. And Alex certainly has a huge amount of ambition, but that ambition, I think, you see at the beginning of the series, is parallel to wanting to kind of to do it with his father. And I think you know through the season you're going to watch him struggle to try and get ahead, and when he falls behind, and how he's dealing with both those, because he is so kind of power hungry, and he's got this kind of desperate need to please his father, and a lot of his pain comes from the fact that his father just doesn't appreciate all of the hard work that Alec does. So in that respect, I try to just be as kind of simple as possible and try and take it to its very bare roots about father and son, about all the issues that any father and son have, and that was the base of it for me.
Well, so, you know, there are so many shows that are, you know, cop dramas or mob dramas. Were there any shows or characters that you kind of thought of as you were, you know, getting into these roles and starting production on Rogue?
Well, I wouldn't say that I would say that this was a cop drama, really. I mean, that wasn't, you know, that wasn't the first thing that came out of my mind, and there are so many kind of cop dramas around that I wanted to take it away from anything like that. And what was so lovely is the themes in this are so current, and you know, things, I mean, I suppose the things that are kind of reminiscent of, you know, Scarface and Goodfellas, or even like old, you know, some of the TV shows that are there more, but Boardwalk Empire. But these are all, for now, for current audience, these are all sort of like fantasy shows, because back in the 30s or back in the 70s and 80s, people go around with Tommy guns, or people kind of get dug in up in the backyard, and you're like, oh yeah, well that's just what happened in New York in the 70s. And we were doing what happens now. How do mob bosses make their money now? How do they deal with the consequences of what they're doing now? What are the repercussions in a media savvy age? So to base, I don't think basing my character on other people. I mean, certainly as an actor, you get a lot of influences from the films that you watch, or the books that you read, or the plays that you see, or, you know, watching people, watching society, and that kind of dynamic that Kathy and Alec have, I think is quite universal. I mean, you could take it back to, God, you know, ancient Greece, really.
Yeah, the funny thing to me is, I mean, I know that when something is so well constructed as Rogue is and has been from the very beginning, you know, you have to know if you have a love for theater that there are classical themes just masked, right?
Right.
Because those truths are kind of uphold themselves in age-old archetypes and characters and relationships and those dynamics that are indestructible. And to me, I've always kind of been aware of that in Rogue from the very beginning. The first script, I was aware that, you know, I mean, essentially it is a cop show because it's about a cop. It's about the cops and the bad guys, you know, but it's current day, and there's so much more going on, and so I was always kind of aware that Matthew and Nick were doing some very well masked classical things, and I wanted to make them very, very truthful. So yeah.
Well, it is a bit grittier and more graphic than what you're usually going to get on TV. And
have you seen the first three?
I haven't seen the third one yet. I saw the first two.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I keep on hearing about this third episode that I must watch, and I have heard that y'all are involved in a very graphic nude scene. And was there any kind of ritual or any kind of thing that you had to do to kind of prep for that, or be able to take it on?
Hey, watch out.
Oh, no.
Well, when it comes to you touched on the graphic content of the show. We were very lucky that DirecTV gave us such freedom, and it's, you know, DirecTV's first original drama, and they want to be able to do as much as they can, and they gave us a lot of free rein with that. The creator's the same, the writer's the same, and like you say, with that freedom for you know, graphic content, you have to then put it up on its feet. But the graphic
ball game, really.
the graphic scenes, or the violence or any of it that's in there, we always thought, just like the actual framing of the show and the lighting and the mood of the show was a character in itself, so too were a lot of the themes that we were addressing. And so when we're going up onto the plate, you just have to sort of open all the doors and just be really kind of trusting of your co-stars and be willing to go the extra mile that the show's willing. You know, a lot of people the executive board are taking a lot of almost risks because
Right.
people haven't seen stuff like this on TV before. And
Yeah,
so the same
yeah.
risks that they're taking around in a boardroom, we're taking on set because it's a lot emotionally to go in for, and it's a big weight. So you have to drag that with you and trust that it's going somewhere, and truly believe that it's going somewhere. And if you do believe that, then really all the inhibition's gone, and you can enjoy it and throw yourself in full throttle, and then the deep end doesn't seem so scary.
Which is really what happened. I mean, I certainly had reservations about the scene that Josh and I do in episode 3, and there was just so much discussion about it beforehand, like 2 weeks leading up to it. I was like, I just wanted to leave it behind, and we stepped on set, and I mean, you can kind of think about a scene as an actor when you're preparing for it before you film it until you're blue in the face, but until you're actually there live in the exact corner of the room of the house of the building that you're filming in, you can't prepare for it properly. It's got to be live and working with what you have in your surroundings. So our scene just it was one of it's probably my favorite day on set of the whole. I mean, I say that truthfully because it was quite liberating. It's a really emotional scene too for me. I mean, in a way, in a roundabout way.
The sex scenes weren't the sex scenes and the violence in the show and all of those the graphic content were there for a purpose, and it was very much a domino effect because we wanted to make sure. And there are a lot of shows out there at the moment that don't pay credence to what's happened before. You know, someone gets killed, someone dies, someone loses a friend. And the next episode, these characters are still there in the same situation, but it's as if nothing's happened, and there's no sort of stain on their soul. And I know, Matthew Parker was really adamant that these characters had that, and so too were we, because it's important that you see a graduation and an evolution with these characters. And so the sex scenes were there for a reason. It wasn't just so they were having sex; it was there to tell part of the story. But look, we're humans, we're not infallible, and standing on set completely stark naked in front of 60 people for 6 hours.
It was an 8-hour affair.
Kind of get a little daunting, but you just sort of have to laugh it off, and I'd be standing there completely butt naked with the microphone guy just dangling there by my wrist. And you just have to laugh at it and say, is my bum look bigger than something?
That's saying no socks in the space.
Yeah, and then it just becomes fun, because we've all seen it before. We just have to get on with it.
Laughter and whiskey is what I attribute to the success of that day, really.
Yeah. Sounds like a good combo.
To life, good combo to life. Yeah.
Well, and what's interesting, as you were discussing throughout that answer, is, I based it off the graphic nudity, but you brought in the graphic violence. And, so many times American audiences seem to kind of, the graphic violence, not a big deal. The graphic nudity is what they zone in on.
Right, yeah.
But
mind you, in this particular day, the graphic violence is
starting to become more of an issue, I guess.
Yeah. But this medium is cable TV, and being that it's DirecTV's first scripted show, they're able to take the story and fully express it past those lines, So
we certainly didn't want to cut any corners like that, because these themes are prevalent in day-to-day society.
Right.
And as far as we are, as much as we all are aware of how influential media is on society around us, it's also part and parcel of it, for good or bad. So if we were to sort of sweep it under the rug, it's always going to stay there. I think better to be out and open and to fully talk about everything that's going on.
Well, on set, is it easier in your mind to distance yourself from the violence, or does it is it just as difficult to deal with as the nudity in certain ways?
Well, I mean, within our household, we talk about all areas of violence and domestic violence.
You can't distance yourself from it.
But if you separate it from yourself, then you're not. Then you're not doing it as an actor. You're not doing it. Then you become a puppet instead of living the character.
We're not a network show.
Yeah.
We're a cable TV show.
And you have to live with that. That those, like you said, that those worries, and some of it is it's quite daunting. Like, Jesus wept, and you live with that, and that feeling that you have, you use as an actor, and then the audience can believe even more if you believe the audience will believe it.
Yeah.
Great. Well, this is DirecTV's first original series, and they seem to be promoting it pretty well. How supportive have y'all felt in this whole process?
They've been wonderful, and I mean, to be a part of it while we were filming it, we're taking episode by episode and doing the job as it comes. But I mean, the first weekend that all of the execs came down and flew in for the weekend and hung out with us and kind of were on set a little bit and hanging out afterwards, you can feel the excitement. And after we wrapped the show, they're really excited about it. So it's cool to feel supported that way.
There's been such a tangible buzz about the whole thing.
Yeah.
I do feel very much that they've cradled us like a baby the whole way through. There's not been a single area on or off set that they haven't, given us everything and more that we could have asked for.
Because it's new for DirecTV to be doing this too, obviously. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a new venture for them in a sense, but they know they have a really good show in their hands, so it's cool for us to experience that, and now we're showing it to you guys for the first time, so.
Yeah. Well, actually, how is that? I imagine y'all were there for part of the viewing last night. How was it to kind of watch the audience react and enjoy it?
So cool.
It was really nice. It was really nice to hear people's reactions, to sort of just sit back in the darkness for a bit and see how people were getting on with it. And we had a screening the other day, and at the beginning when Tandy's son passes away, to hear the room just go completely silent, and the aftermath, it was really nice to see that the themes that we were being touched on were actually people were listening to and hearing.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's interesting doing publicity before the show is officially premiered, which
Yeah.
it does on April the 3rd. You don't want to ever feel that you're kind of resting on laurels that haven't been placed yet, and so you want to make sure that you've got a good reaction from people. And so far we have, and DirecTV has got us on what are we going? How many cities is it, Craig? 13 cities in how many days?
3 weeks.
13 cities in 20 days.
Yeah.
across from the eastern seaboard to the western, and we're doing a kind of collaboration on this, and there are a lot of people working behind the scenes that are working harder than we are even, because our work almost finished when we finished filming, so it's really nice for us to be able to come out here and just get people's reaction, because in what world would we be able to do that otherwise? So it's really a joy.
Yeah, this is the fun part of it too. I mean, filming was fun too, but this is like, it's a little bit, it's a little nerve-wracking too, because we can't be attached to it too much, but that's us that we put into it, so
Yeah.
we'll see.
We have had no bad reactions so far, so as long as that
Who knows though,
continues.
who knows,
Yeah.
you have to take the good and the bad.
Maybe the next guy that comes in will hate it.
Whether people love it or hate it, they'll certainly have something to say. They'll certainly have a strong opinion about it, so.
That is true. Well, I want to thank you both very much for taking the time to talk
Thank
to
you
me.
very
and
much.
I hope
So
you
early.
enjoy the rest of your tour.
Thank you. I hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
I will.